Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the Gospel of John. Today we're looking at the last paragraph of John chapter 11. That's in verses 55 through 57. Now remember, most of John chapter 11 dealt with the raising of Lazarus. And after that was over, we saw in the last session that the leadership in Jerusalem had determined that Jesus must die. Remember, Caiaphas, the high priest, said, well, it's better for one man to die than the whole people perish. So the opposition had been growing for some time, but now it's solidified in the Sanhedrin, the leadership council of the Jewish people. They're going to do away with Jesus. And now as we get to verse 55, we're told that it's approaching time for the Passover. So verses 55 through 57. It was almost time for the Jewish Passover. And many went up from the country to Jerusalem for the ceremonial cleansing before the Passover. They kept looking for Jesus. And as they stood in the temple courts, they asked one another, what do you think? Is he coming to the festival at all? But the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that anyone who found out where Jesus was should report it to them so they might arrest him. So the scene is set. It's almost time for the Jewish Passover. Now, this is the most important of the festivals of Judaism. It's also one of the three great pilgrim festivals where, if possible, you would want to go to Jerusalem. That's why it says, as Passover approached, many were going to Jerusalem. They got there a little early to get themselves ready for the celebration of Passover. Now, this is the third time in the Gospel of John that the Passover is mentioned. There are three instances we are told about the Passover in John's Gospel. The first is in chapter 2. You remember that was early in Jesus' ministry. Really, in the beginning portions of it, he had gone to Jerusalem for the Passover, and John tells how he cleansed the temple at that time. Caused quite a discussion among the people as to why he did what he did to overturn the tables of those selling sacrificial animals and overturn the tables of the money changers. He cleansed the temple. And following that action at Passover time, we find in chapter 3 of John that famous conversation with Nicodemus, who himself was a Pharisee but was intrigued by Jesus, and he came asking questions. And Jesus made that famous comment to him, to see the kingdom of God, you must be born again. That was all about the first Passover mentioned in the Gospel of John. Then a second Passover is mentioned in chapter 6. Now this time, for this Passover, Jesus did not go to Jerusalem, but rather he stayed in Galilee. And this was the time when he fed the multitudes. He fed the 5,000 with the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. And of course, after that miracle of the feeding, people were very interested in making him a king by force, and he said, no, we're not going that way. But then he also had that famous conversation with them about that he was the bread of life. He was the heavenly manna. The one who had multiplied the loaves tells them, I am the bread of life. The heavenly bread come down to you. And now we come to the third Passover mentioned in the Gospel of John. Here in chapter 11, it says we're getting close to the Passover. Now this is the Passover we're most familiar with, because this is the Passover which Jesus will die on the cross for us. He will make the atoning sacrifice for us. He will show that he is the Passover lamb. You know, in the Passover, the lamb was sacrificed and the blood protected the homes of the Israelites in Egypt as the plague, the angel of death, passed through the land. Jesus makes it clear at this last Passover mentioned that he is the Passover lamb. And when his blood covers our lives, we are protected. So, we're ready for that. Everything is built to this moment. Remember, throughout the Gospel of John, he's told us the hour is not yet come. But now, with this last Passover, this third Passover mentioned, the hour is at hand for Jesus to make atonement for us on the cross of Calvary as our Passover lamb. So, it's almost time for the Passover. Crowds are gathering, and of course, they're all asking the question. Where is Jesus? Is he coming? Is he not? Will he be at the festival? Will he teach us? What will happen? What will the leadership do? Everyone is interested. The scene is set. Now, as we move into chapter 12 in our next session, we're going to see just a few days before the Passover, Jesus is going to return to Bethany, the site of that miracle of the raising of Lazarus. And it's from Bethany that he'll prepare to go to the Passover. But we'll start looking at that tomorrow. So join us for our next 5-minute Bible study in the Gospel of John as we begin looking at chapter 12.